Have you been watching this wild case on Court TV? The Farris family from Georgia, not far from where I live, by the way, not too far. Unbelievable story, incredible drama. I think the best way to describe it is kind of like if you go back to the 80s and early 90s, Dynasty or Dallas, like this family with money, but all this drama and a certain level of dysfunction. That's the Farris family. And Melody Farris, the wife, has been charged with the red rum of the husband, the father, Gary Farris, who's this incredibly successful attorney in Atlanta. Well, now we're in a verdict watch. The jury has the case. So we're going to take a few moments here to talk about this case, verdict watch, some storytelling. This is Vinny Live.
Get ready, get set, let's go.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready. So post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set. To like and to subscribe, let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.
All right, I jumped on very little notice. Very little notice. Jury got the case about 40 minutes ago. What's going to happen to Melody Farris? What a case, what a story. Insanity. Great to have you aboard, folks. Today, you had closing arguments today in the case, and the jury has just gotten it. They got the instructions, and they are deliberating. Here's what you need to know, and this applies to every case, every trial. Once you're in a verdict watch, it's like not nearly as important, not nearly as dangerous, but it's like you're at the firehouse, and you're just sitting around, waiting. And once the knock on the jury door is like the alarm going off, you spring into action and it happens. But you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know. It literally can happen at any time. That's why I'm keeping an eye on my my phone here with my emails and everything else coming from Court TV. So I'll give you the story. Not everyone maybe knows the story. I'll show you. I'm going to show you a couple interesting pieces of the closing argument. But if you look at this, a Farris wheel that I put together, this is the family. In the middle is Gary Farris. He is the husband, the father, the breadwinner. And I mean, a lot of dough, a lot of bread, a lot of fajol, if you know what I mean. He made a lot of money. He was a very successful attorney. He wasn't a criminal attorney. He wasn't really a litigator, but he did these deals and he made money and he was really good at it. So he's married to the woman above him. That's Melody Farris. And they're married for 38 years, 38-year marriage. But, and there's a big but here, is that this was not, what's the word I'm looking for? This was not a fairy tale relationship, okay? 38 years, but the word is, it seems that since the 90s or so, like going back that far, they lived on separate floors in the house. So it was sort of, they remained married, but had somewhat separate lives. They both had relationships outside of the marriage. How serious or not, it's up for debate. You can talk about that, but they did. So this wasn't a traditional love affair that these two had. The 38 years together, they're soulmates. No, they are not soulmates. They were not soulmates. And for whatever reason, it happens. But they stayed together for whatever reason, right? Like, I don't want to judge people. Oh, looks like the jury has a question already. Or is it? No. Let me see. Ooh, I'm trying to get with him. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, they may have a question. People are saying they have a question. Jury's got a question. 4:45. The question could be, "Hey, how late are we staying? You going to feed us dinner?" Sometimes that's the question. So let's see let me see if I can get into that. 1 second. I'm just trying to do something technically here that I don't normally do. So let me see if I can get her done. No, that's not it. Where is this? I've got to, oh, it's right here. Here we go. Okay. Let me go here. Just give me a second. I'm going to see if we can get this live, if there is a live version of this happening. One moment. I'm technically doing something I don't normally do. No, I can't get that live for you. I can't get that live for you. I got to watch my notes. I'll watch my notes. Okay. These are old notes. I got to get to the new notes. All right. We're discussing some sort of exhibit. It's an exhibit request. Okay. I've got my information I can share with you now. Sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So the update here on the verdict watch is it looks like there's some question about exhibits, and judges and different jurisdictions do it differently. In some places, they take all the exhibits and they wheel them into the jury room, and the jury can do whatever they want with them. In other jurisdictions, the jury has to request it. In some jurisdictions, they don't get everything they ask for. So it really depends. And the lawyers and the judge, they're going to figure it all out. By the way, this is a great judge in this case. Love this judge. So it's a question about exhibits. It's not a verdict. And it looks like the jury may want to go home relatively early today. We shall see. So that's the buzz from the courthouse. So anything more happens here? Let's see. There's on the bench exhibit. You know what else is interesting is that she's out. She's not locked up. Melody Farris is not locked up. And I believe she's actually like waiting. She's waiting outside. I can get some video of that. 1 second. All right, I'll see if I can get that for you. All right, a lot of things happening because we're on a verdict watch, right? Okay, so let's talk about the family. So Melody Farris, it's not your classic love affair, but they do have a family, and it's a big family. They have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, right? But they're not boys and girls anymore. They're men and women. They're grown up. 3 of them have their own families and are no longer living on the sprawling 10-acre farm estate that the Farrises own. So, but one son is living there, and that's Scott, and he's an Iraq War veteran. And there's drama with all the kids in terms of needing money, having problems. Some of it might be relatively normal, but when you put it in the middle of a red rum case, all of a sudden it gets very escalated and elevated. So all the drama becomes much more dramatic, much more important, because you're talking about motive and opportunity to commit this crime. So in this case, Melody has a boyfriend named Rusty. That's a big issue. Melody likes nice things. She likes money. They're in Georgia. And in Georgia, when you get divorced, infidelity is an issue. It's not a no-fault state. There are ways where what you get and what you're entitled to can be reduced based upon who is causing the problem. So it's a little more complicated in Georgia. And I've learned that from my Georgia attorney guests who I've had on. So, if you look at it and say, why not just get divorced? Well, if you just get divorced, there could be blame. It could be litigated. Your husband's a lawyer. You might be afraid that you'll lose. So you put that all into perspective. If he's dead, you get the money and you get your lover, right? So that's kind of what they're saying. And she liked nice things. Melody Farris liked nice things. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're entitled to like nice things if you want. If you can afford them, you buy them. It's good for everybody. It's good for the economy. So, but Gary's in the middle, and he's seemingly, like many successful men or women do in their families, if they have children, they support them even into adulthood. We all know that happens, and to different degrees, depending upon the child and the issues that the child is dealing with. But again, they're not children, they're adult children. So Scott is the one who seemed to be, still living at home, but it's his own apartment on top of the barn on the farm estate. So that's his situation. So he's physically there, living there. So when it comes to what happened to Gary, Gary is found on the 5th of July in a burn pile. Now, for those of you not familiar, and I've noticed this since I moved to Georgia years ago, it wasn't so much the case in the parts of New Jersey where I lived, but in Georgia, it's very common. People have big properties and they burn stuff, whatever it is. If they're burning leaves, they're burning twigs, they're burning, some places they burn garbage, whatever. They had a burn pile. I don't know what they were burning, but he ended up in there. But he wasn't just in the burn pile. He also had a projectile that came from a nug in his torso. So it's obviously red rum, right? Because the weapon is not found. The nug is not found in this red rum. Just spell everything backwards, folks. And as a result, it's a bit of a mystery, but it is a red rum mystery. It's not like natural causes. It's not, did he take his own life? That's no, because there is a weapon that has not been recovered. So somebody else, from my perspective, obviously involved. Prosecution theory, and this is important because of something I'm going to show you in a minute, is that Melody took him out in their house. And there's a few drops of blood they found and some smeared blood that looked like it was wiped up. They found in the house. Not a lot, but they found it with the luminol. And their claim is that he was red rummed in the house and then placed in the burn pile. Well, here's the catch. Like, this guy weighs more than 300 pounds. Melody's kind of tiny and not the youngest, right? She's not like, she's not an athlete. She's not, she doesn't look like she works out or anything. She's sort of a regular woman of her age, like in her 50s, I guess, at the time. And, to pull and get a 300-pound man from the house, perhaps in the basement, perhaps on another floor, and get him out of the house all the way to the burn pile, the defense is saying is basically impossible. That's their argument, is that it's impossible. So what I want to do here, and let me see if I can find it. I'm going to play for you a moment from the defense closing argument, actually talking about this. Let's take a look. Okay, I think that's it. So I've got to, one moment. Doing a lot of technical things here. One second. All right. And this should be it. So you've got the defense attorney, very good closing argument, by the way. And he's got, I think, fertilizer that he brings into the courtroom with 2 big burlap bags. And he's placing the fertilizer in the burlap bags. Dramatic. I love demonstrations. I love drama in the courtroom. Also, you can see sort of the family on the and the witnesses on the easel behind them. But he's loading it up. 300 pounds is a lot. And this has been one of the big questions from the beginning, is if she did do this, how did she get him from the house to the burn pile? Is it even possible? That's from the defense perspective, obviously. Although I will say the evidence connected to the blood was not the most compelling I've seen in a trial. But there was some evidence, and it arguably was evidence of a potential cleanup. Now, what you need to know is the son, Scott, is a big guy, big dude, Iraq War veteran. All right, take a look.
This is 320 pounds. I am 185 pounds. And that's all I have. I think it is the heaviest doubt of all that they have provided you with no means, plan that this could have ever happened by Melody. They have established there was tractors on the property and RTVs, but as my client, or as my partner very clearly laid out to you, I'm sorry.
He's out of breath. That's it. And there's Melody. You see her in the courtroom. Looks much different than her mugshot, by the way. She looks like pretty much a mess in the mugshot. But he's out of breath. To me, that's I don't know if he's acting. I don't think he is. I mean, 300 pounds is a lot to drag around the courtroom, like in your suit and whatnot. But to me, it's a compelling demonstration and brings the reality of what the allegation is here by prosecutors.
My partner very clearly laid out to you. They didn't do their job. They've provided no way that you could have done this. They didn't check the boxes. They didn't fill any holes of doubt. The state of Georgia has put my client under grave suspicion. That is exactly what they have done. They have put on her grave suspicion, the most grave suspicion of all, and that is murder. But the doubt, I contend to you, absolutely exists. I'm sorry I had to do this demonstration, but they didn't. They didn't show you what 300 pounds truly feels like. I'm not saying I'm the strongest person in the world, but that is as heavy as a thing as a person can move. And I'm almost a 200-pound man. No explanation has been given, and I keep bringing this back because the grave suspicion that they put on her, these affairs, calling Rusty, all of these things.
All right. So there it is. That was the big demo. That was the big demo in the courtroom from closing arguments for the defense, saying she just couldn't have done it. She couldn't. There's a lot of question marks in this one, but there is evidence. There's some compelling evidence in this case from the prosecution, including motive, opportunity, and some really sketchy conversations between Melody and her boyfriend, Rusty. So I kind of put those pieces together. Let me play a little bit of the closing argument from the prosecutor. Now, this one, let me see if I can get this correctly done here. All right.
July 24th, Rusty says to law enforcement, she told me he's in the burn pile. She's arrested a year later, booked into Cherokee County. They have a jail call on June 24th, and whoop, on June 25th, he recants that statement. Y'all, there's Molly Farris for you. That manipulation.
Okay, this is a big point because Rusty, the boyfriend, initially gives a statement that implicates Melody, that Melody is on July 3rd, like the body is found on the 5th. On July 3rd, she's saying to Rusty, according to Rusty in his initial statement, that she is in that Gary's in the burn pile. He recants that statement after getting a phone call from Melody. And that's what the prosecutor is saying here, is that the boyfriend is recanting his statement after Melody convinced him to do so.
She knew Rusty was her Achilles heel in this case. She knew that. She had to shut it down. You know what she was really hoping? This is how she wanted it to go down. She knew the only way out of this That's clear. She didn't think there would be blood left in her home. She didn't think anyone would be looking for it. She didn't think law enforcement would be all over that house. Well, we found it. And we kept digging, and we found more and more and more. We found out about your affairs, your disdain for your husband, your obsession with money and things and materialism. She never once encouraged law enforcement to find the person that actually did this. She didn't think this is how any of this would play out. She manipulated her own mother to have an affair with Ted Wiley. She manipulated Martha to have an affair with Rusty. She manipulated Amanda to go with her to continue her affairs with Rusty. She manipulated Emily. She would go to Nashville to see Emily and disappear to go see Rusty. She used all of the people in her life. She used Sherry Cooper to see Rusty.
So you get a flavor for what's going on in this trial. So that's where we are. It's taken a while to get to trial. She's out on bond, so she's walking in and out of the courtroom. So when it's time for this verdict to come down, it's going to be a really dramatic moment because she goes from being free potentially to being locked up for the rest of her life in a moment like that, in a moment. And that's why verdict watches are so extremely tense. I remember as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, you've got butterflies, you're nervous, you're antsy, right? And this is on low-level cases, some of the low-level cases that I tried, not a case to this extent. But obviously they're nervous, but then you think about the people involved. Now, what's interesting here is that this has really turned into a family feud because you've got family member against family member in this one. Gary in the middle, but 3 of the children believe that their mother did it. The mother's pointing the finger at her son, Scott, and is sort of raising suspicion on others. And her daughter, Amanda, is the only one who's kind of, she's presuming her mother innocent. And she's going to say, my mother's innocent until you prove otherwise to me. So, and she's the one who's been closest to her mother since Gary was found in the burn pile. And Melody's been living with her as well. So they're very tight. They're close. And she wants to believe, like in most of the cases involving a spousal red rum and the trials, inevitably regardless of whether they're young or old, the children never want to believe that their mother or father could be responsible for what happened to their mother or father. Because then they lose both parents. But this family, there's so much dysfunction. It's like right out of the box, the son who found his father, who says he found his father in the burn pile, is pointing the finger at his mother. Like, oh yeah, she had a reason to do it. She probably did it. I'm sure she did it, right? And Melody's pointing it right back at him. So that's why I look at this as like Dynasty or Dallas or something. You've got a family, you've got deceit, and at the bottom of it all is the money, the money, the money. I mean, they tried to paint the picture, the defense did, of Scott being a guy who's walking around saying, yeah, this is my estate now, right? This is mine now. Yeah, this is all my money, right? So money is clearly the motivating factor. Scott was allegedly taking money from his father, and his father called him out on it. So, there's some friction there, some possible motive there. He's a big guy. They're saying he could drag the body. But then you look at what prosecutors are saying is the timeline, and that everything happened at around 10 o'clock on the, was it the 3rd, on the 3rd, right? 10 o'clock on the 3rd of July. And 10 o'clock at night. And if you go by the GPS, Scott isn't home. He's about an hour away at a lake. Melody is there. Gary's coming home by himself, I guess, from a restaurant, and he gets home around 9:30. Reports of potential gunshots. And again, this is around the 4th of July, so there's fireworks going off as well. But reports of potential gunshots around 10 o'clock. So prosecutors have really zoomed in on that time period. They've looked at the geofencing and the cell data to locate where the potential suspects would be. And they say Melody is there and Scott is not. So that's how this case is breaking down. I think people have been watching it, look at it and say, well, there's something going on here. Everything doesn't fit exactly like you would want it to fit. For the case against Melody, there's others who question the sons because their testimony was just, they were not good witnesses. These people were not good witnesses. They really weren't. I think the last child, Amanda, to me, came across them as most real in the way she was, and didn't seem like, I don't know, there was something else going on, if you know what I mean. So this case is unpredictable. You've got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Could I see someone finding reasonable doubt? I could see someone getting hung up on some things here. But like most cases, I mean, if you just balanced it like this, I think that the scale is clearly tipped towards Melody being responsible. But can they tip it all the way to beyond a reasonable doubt? To me, this is a reasonable doubt case. Like, is there enough, or is there enough alternative theories or unanswered questions that a juror might have a problem in going all the way? And again, closing argument from the defense was very, very, very good today. Extremely good. So that's where we are in this case. And the verdict watch, it's on Court TV. Let me see if I have any more updates. I'll just check real quick, see if I have any more insight into what is happening. Let's see. Yes, scroll. Okay, they have left the building. And they'll be back tomorrow morning. They'll be back in the morning. So there'll be no verdict tonight on my show. If you notice, a lot of times on my show, I get verdicts, but that's usually from Florida. In the state of Florida, the judge has much more discretion in allowing jurors to stay late, and they generally let them stay late in Florida. Other states, they'll leave it up to the jury, or, the sheriff's office got to shut down the courthouse at 5. So it varies. Now, this was a long trial, so I'm not expecting necessarily a quick verdict. Well, let me tell you, if we get a verdict like tomorrow, That would be, I would think, a quick verdict in a case like this, because this one took several weeks. So I would expect several days of deliberations as a normal amount of time. Obviously, Friday is around the corner, and things speed up on Fridays with juries. Under all other circumstances, I would say once you hit Monday into Tuesday, you're starting to get into a long deliberation. I would say anything Tuesday beyond is a longer deliberation. I would say anything before Monday is a quicker deliberation. If it's late in the day Friday, would not shock me, since 90% of our trials seem to come back late on a Friday. So if we got like a 4 o'clock on a Friday verdict, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I'd say, hey, that's pretty normal in a case like this. But if it's tomorrow, that's a quick one. And I think, and in this case, I think a quick one, I would be more worried if I was the defense in a quick one on this one. All right, I'm going to get to your comments and your questions on this and whatever else is on your mind today. And we begin with Jennifer Lego. Please explain McSpunky. I haven't heard. Thanks. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so here's the McSpunky deal. He's one of our loyal viewers. Might be in the chat today. His profile shot brings a smile to my face every time I see it. To me, when McSpunky makes a comment, he'll take part in the conversation, but a lot of times he's just sort of cleansing our palates of all the things we talk about in true crime, and we just take a moment to be like, okay, we're here together, and that's a good thing. And as a result, because of that vibe that he's given off, we have an official McSpunky song that we play when there's a McSpunky comment. So I'm quickly scrolling just to see if McSpunky's in the house. He may not be in the house. This was a very last minute thing, and I don't think a lot of the notifications went out on YouTube. By the way, folks, I live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. And if you follow me on Twitch, Twitch is the best with the notifications. Twitch is the best with the notifications. And yeah.
Time to get happy. It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile, because here comes McSpunky.
All right, McSpunky in the house. Like I said, Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Sube, our great mods. Hey, awesome mod ladies. It is I, McSpunky, reporting for duty. and a great emoji to go along with it. Great to see you, McSpunk. Welcome to the program. Great to have you aboard. I'm glad I was able to find your post. All right. Thank you, McSpunky. Back to the Ferris wheel. Lauren Katie today. Okay, so no verdict today. And if we had one today, that would be really fast. Let me go over my theorem if you haven't seen it. I did it the other day. Have it on this official piece of paper. For every day of testimony in a trial, expect in a normal deliberation 1 hour of deliberations. For every week of a longer trial like this one, expect about a day of deliberations. So this trial about 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks plus of testimony. So I'm looking at 3 days for this one as being sort of a barometer of what would be a normal deliberation. So today we didn't have a lot of time, but you got Thursday, Friday, Monday. So, if it came in on Monday, I would say that's right on time. You also have to take into account the Friday factor. Things speed up. Jurors like to wrap things up on Friday. So if we're close to the baseline on a Friday, sometimes I would look at a Friday and say, okay, that's pretty normal as well. So if it's Friday afternoon, normal. Monday, normal. We get past Monday in this trial, I think we're getting into a longer deliberation, higher possibility of, from my perspective, a not guilty, or a higher possibility of a compromise verdict or a hung jury. I think if we come in Monday or earlier, I think that's more likely to be a guilty verdict. Not guilty would not shock me, but as I do most times, because historically, most of the times that's what it is, I expect a guilty verdict. I expect it, but you never know what a jury's going to do. You don't know what a jury's going to do. I think there's more to the story. I think prosecutors have it. I think they're on target with this, but I think there's something else to the story. And all the I's have not been dotted and the T's have not been crossed. And I think that could be a problem for some jurors. I think myself as a juror, I might be a little more aggressive than others. But Daryl Hicks, her goose is cooked. iPhone pinged at the crime scene. Yeah, well, but it's also where she lives, right? It's her house also. Yeah, is everyone convinced of the exact TOD, time of death, right? Can that be argued? I think that's all up for debate. And then that's on YouTube. You go to Facebook and Teresa Casey says not guilty, but someone is. Yeah, this is a red rum. This is not natural causes. This is not an accident. This is not the taking of one's own being. It's none of that. This is a homicide. This is a death at the hands of another. And the question is, this is literally a whodunit. And it's a whodunit like back in the day on Dallas, Who Shot JR? Like this could be a cliffhanger. You could end it right here, and we could debate it for the next 6 months on this one. But Rami Glade says she did it. So there you go. So I would say more people are probably leaning guilty, like Shannon O'Connor, and Donna Knappenberger saying guilty, right? Of course. So don't forget, folks, if you're on Facebook, hit the like button, please. And what else do you do? And subscribe. If you're on Facebook, share it and make sure you're following me. On Twitch, share us as well. And on X, you can re-X and make sure you're following. And here's Marina B with and this is a great take on it. This is a great take. She may have done it, right? I feel, and this is what I was talking about. Like, are you proven you proved it, but did you prove it as to the extent that you need to prove it in a criminal case in the United States of America? And she's saying she may have done it, but the state did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, right? And you have to hold the state to that standard. You have to. That's the law, number one. And the system has been designed to prevent an innocent person from being convicted, even if it means letting people who are responsible go free. You want, 1,000 people to go free who may be responsible before one innocent person is convicted. I mean, to me, that's the biggest travesty in our system when that happens. There's human error, and it can happen. Sometimes it happens for the wrong reasons, and sometimes it happens just because of the way the evidence lined up for whatever reason. But our system works pretty darn well. It's not perfect, but it works pretty darn well. Yeah, Anita Mayhew Wilson. It's like riding a Ferris wheel with this family. It absolutely is. They can make a soap opera around this, and they can. And it's sad. And I think people, I'm in the area, and I have lawyers from the area on my show all the time, and a lot of people talk about, people always said the family was a little, it was a little wild what was happening. So, but it's sad. It's sad, but it's the saddest for Gary because somebody took him out. And it appears that it's someone from his family took him out. Whoever you believe it is on the wheel, right? Whoever it is on the wheel that you think may have done this. But someone did. Here's the other thing, right? Because it's all in the family. I think in a case like this, it's easier for a juror to say not guilty. What do you think of that? Like if it's all in the family, right? It's everything's in the family. Well, it's all in the family. So if one family member did it or another did it or a family member gets away with it, they all have to deal with each other. It's no threat to the rest of us. It's no threat to the rest of society. It's not some psychopath, in the woods or something like that. So yes, we want to do the right thing. Yes, we want to hold the person responsible, but I just feel that it's easier for a juror in a case like this to say not guilty than in other cases. I'm not saying they're going to say that, but I just think it's a little bit easier for them to find reasonable doubt versus like a case like Delphi, like the Delphi case out in Indiana, because of the allegations that this man is a monster and the victims are children and there was no reason for this to happen. And you know what I mean? Whereas this is family drama and it's all amongst themselves. And if the jury comes back not guilty, well, the Farris family can figure it out themselves and deal with it themselves. That's just my personal thought. And Alyssa, I don't think she did it. The lack of evidence blows my mind. So that's not even a not guilty. That's an innocent, right? That's next level. I don't think she did it. Not that they didn't prove it, but she actually didn't do it. And Ginger Sue, done. I feel she's guilty. I feel she's guilty, but just too much reasonable doubt. There's these other stories floating around. Now, we've had cases like this before on court TV where, the 13th juror, the folks who are watching the trial, and the people at court TV, we all talk about the cases in our meetings and et cetera, and to each other, because everyone's got an opinion. And there have been cases where people say, there's reasonable doubt. And then the jury comes back and says guilty. And that's why that I most of the time I land on expecting a guilty verdict. That's really where I begin, because historically that's how these trials end for the most part. It's a very small portion where you end up with a not guilty. You'll get some hung juries, you'll get some lesser includeds, but it's rare that you land on not guilty. Self-defense is one place where we seem to get a few more not guilties than in other places. That's where they've actually admitted doing it, but what they did was defending themselves. And in those cases, the victim is put on trial. In this case, the victim wasn't put on trial. It was really, putting the witnesses on trial is what the defense was doing. I think she will get off, says Carrie Lynn, and found not guilty. I'm almost willing to bet they go after Scott next. Now, if they did that, I'd have a problem with that, unless there was new evidence. See, I feel ethically as a prosecutor, like you don't charge one person and you can't convict them. So, all right, let's charge somebody else, unless there's some new evidence that you've uncovered. And I don't think that's the case here. So I wouldn't necessarily expect that. And if they did do that, I would be offended as a former prosecutor, because you have to try the people that you believe are responsible and that you believe you have the evidence to prove they are responsible. That's your ethical obligation. It's to the truth. It's not like, let's convict somebody here. All right, we'll try this one. That didn't work. Let's charge somebody else. You can't do that. You can't do that. Unless there's some new evidence that comes to light that you didn't have when you charged the first person. All right, who's this? Sufia Chowdhury. Been watching Leilani trial with Gisela K. Yeah, the Leilani trial. We streamed it also on Court TV, I think on YouTube, and we covered it on my show, and we bits and pieces in between the suitcase and the Ferris wheel. We covered that. I covered that story from the beginning. To me, see, that's one where there was no defense. Like that to me, that wasn't initially, when I first started covering the story, it was a little bit of a whodunit because there's three people, in the house potentially. But then once the evidence started to be uncovered, to me, it was very, very obvious that Leilani was guilty. The teen mom, little Quentin Simon, cutest kid ever. All she had to do was say, I can't take care of this child. I think her mother would have attempted to do it. I think anyone with a heart, once you saw that child in those brown eyes, those big brown eyes, you would melt and you would say, well, if she's not going to raise this child, I'll raise him. I think anyone who's watching who has a heart would have said that. And Jennifer Sube thanking Sufia. And Gen X, one of our mods, along with Jennifer Sube and Frankie Figs. I don't understand why they won't just get a divorce and split the money. What would have been a downgrade, a 12,000 square foot mansion to a 6,000 square foot? I don't get it. Well, part of it is in Georgia, the divorces are a little different, that there is fault is involved. It's not a no fault state where we just split it. It's like if someone was doing something wrong, like who's zooming who, and if like she's stepping out on him and doing something wrong, it becomes relevant and it can impact the division of money. Although I really believe after 38 years, 38 years, it should be a 50-50 split. But that's not necessarily the way it always happens. She may have feared going against her husband because he was a lawyer, maybe, or maybe just greed, just outright greed. You get more. In the end, if you get caught, you get much less, right? You get more time than money in prison. But I always, that's the question I ask in all these spousal cases, because in the end, like if they have young children, that you ruin their lives as well. There's no upside. Just, mitigate the damage, count your losses, pack it up and move on. Life is too short. There's plenty of opportunity. There is, believe it or not, for some people, they do have a life after a divorce, and you can have life with a little less money. But she also, they're arguing she loved nice things. By the way, Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Sube, doing a great job as our mod squad.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The mod squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The mod squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean. So let's give it up and say hello to the three amazing ladies running the show. Gen X, let's make some noise. Frankie Figs, let's clap our hands. And Jennifer Sube, let's raise the roof. Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The mod squad is on the job.
All right, folks. It's in your head now. The rest of the night you'll be hearing order in the chat. Order in the chat. I'm telling you, I walk around singing that song. It's a good one. It's a hit. It's a hit record. I'm telling you. Thank you to our mod squad. Oh, look at this. Shannon Elena watching. Vinny in the chat from Puebla, Mexico. Thank you so much. Mouthy Mama, the questions were about lunch and drinks with Leilani. Yeah, there's logistics. And this is my biggest beef with our system of justice, and it really came to light in the Karen Reed case. There's not enough communication with them, and we don't hold their hands enough and guide them through the situation. Like in the Karen Reed case, it really seems that the jury found her not guilty on 2 of the charges, but didn't know that they could tell the court that they came to a verdict out of 2 of the 3 charges. Instead, just said we're hung up, and they were actually only hung up on the 2nd charge. And that's just, to me, that's awful that happened. But that's one of my beefs with our system. I don't think we provide enough insight to the jury. I served on a jury, and like I understood a lot of things that were going on, but it was like we're told just enough. Like don't tell them too much. Don't tell the jury too much. But anyhow, Jennifer Suba, yeah, this has been 4 weeks long. I think part of that was jury selection. There were some arguments. So yeah, I'm saying 3 and change. Today was the change. 3 more days, Thursday, Friday, Monday. We get to Tuesday. Now we're talking long verdict. And this is something that no one else ever did. When I first started at Court TV, the question, I was a correspondent in the field, and the question was this going to be a short deliberation or a long deliberation? I thought about, well, what's long, what's short? Like, what is a long deliberation? What is a short deliberation? Like, every trial's different. So you need a formula. That's how I came up with my formula. Studying the cases, talking to lawyers, talking to bailiffs, deputies, judges, and formulated this thing over the course of years. And it seems to really work. It's usually pretty spot on. Probably half the time the formula kind of hits when the jury's coming back. But sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. But you can't analyze a verdict if it's quick or long if you don't know what is normal. And normal is different for different trials based upon the length of the trials, the amount of evidence. And sometimes the number of defendants makes it a little more complicated, the number of charges, the number of counts, and sometimes all of that comes into play. All right, getting to a few more. Miss Odin is here. Not an Odinist, but Miss Odin. Hey, and good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well your way. Thank you for joining us. Oh, here's Debbie. She's all in. I think Scott did it. He deleted photos and he could carry Gary out of the house. Yes, I hope she's not guilty, not a hung jury. She had affairs, but he had one with his paralegal. Adultery is not against the law unless you are sued for alienation of affection. I know someone who's found guilty of that, but that's civil, not criminal. Good analysis, Debbie. And Cindy is with Debbie. I think the son Scott did it. See, this is the challenge for prosecutors. It's did they prove it? And then there's also people who believe that someone else actually did it. And that combination might be too much to overcome. We shall see. And here's Colleen Ballard Silberman, Gen X, Bible Belt. If he can prove she's having an affair in the state of Georgia, she loses rights to most of the marital assets. It's a different color here in the South. Trust me. Oh, Colleen, we trust you. Now, is that picture black and white, or is that just kind of like a colored filter there? I can't quite tell. Nice picture, though. Big smile. Oh, Denise has a theory. Colleen, I heard a theory. She used the horse to pull him out. Wow. How about that? How about that? All right, Gen X, reminding the chat rules. State your exit if you're from New Jersey. That's important. I'm from Jersey. I want to know your exit. Be a decent person to others. No attacks or insults. Try to comment in a way that keeps us in YouTube's good graces. Indeed. Oh, Elaine. Oh, she's guilty as sin. No which way about it, says Elaine. Elaine. And Ginger Sue is finding Scott suspicious. Jury started their deliberations today, I think just before 4. So they did about an hour. They only did an hour today. Just enough time to kind of maybe get organized, figure out how they're going to do this, decide that they didn't want to stay all night. Jennifer Subi doesn't know how she could drag him to the burn pile. And did she use an ATV? Did she use a tractor? I don't know. But 300 pounds is a lot. And you're literally talking about dead weight. 81% of Vinny's poll says guilty. Do I have a poll up? I don't think I have a poll on this one. I don't think I have a poll on this one. Let me check. I don't remember doing a poll on this one. I'm going to check my little community. 1 second. 1 second. The community. Boop. No, my last poll on my community was the Menendez brothers, which is locked in at 71%, set them free, 29% locked them up. How about that? All right. I am about 40 minutes behind, so I'm going to start scrolling a little quickly here because I have a show tonight. 8 to 9, we'll be talking about this story. And then 9 to 10 tonight, it's the Delphi case. They banned cameras, but you can't ban court TV. We got our folks on the ground out there. We're going to go through that on Vinny Politan Investigates tonight at 9. 8 o'clock, we're going to take a look at this case. We'll look at the closing arguments. And we will also take a look at the most important evidence in the case, the biggest moments in the case. All right. I am scrolling a little bit quicker than normal right now, just trying to catch up a little bit because it's 5:37 and on the comments, I am just after 5 o'clock right now. Rita Fawcett, $4.5 million is a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, that's good money, $4.5 million. You could just sock that away in some bonds, pull out like 5% tax free. How much you doing there? 50, 100, was that? Is that 250,000? Is that 250? Let me see. Let me do the math. Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Mm-hmm. 54. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about over $200,000 a year without taxes on it, just by taking that 4.5 and putting it away. That's a lot of money. You could live a nice little life like that. It's not extravagant, but you have no worries. You have no worries. All right. Truth seeker human guilty. Why was blood in the house if he was pushed in the fire? Because he was, he also had a projectile in his torso that came out of a nug. So the theory is that he was actually unalived in the house and then dragged out to the burn pile to destroy the evidence. Let's see. Fractured fairy tales, very tragic situation brought on by someone, but it reminds me of the soap operas in the 80s, showing my age. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly what this case is like. If you're looking to watch my show tonight, Gen X has posted where to find Court TV, where you can watch it in your area. I'm not just on YouTube. I'm also on television. 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 2 hours of live true crime, Monday through Friday. Only guy on television doing it. Other people dip their toes in from time to time. They get distracted by politics and other silly things. I am true crime all the time. Oh, Wendy Dodd from the UK, England. I think she's guilty, but why am I speaking differently? But had help maybe from the son, Scott. Loving your coverage thing. How about that, right? Is it possible that they're both involved, pointing the fingers at each other, seemingly at this trial, to confuse the jury so no one gets convicted and they both get away with it? That would be a twist. That's a twist. That's the twist in my movie that I'm writing. Brooklyn Janet. When Melody told Rusty Gary's body is on the burn pile before they found him, that totally convinced me she's guilty. Now, Rusty recanted that after a phone call from Melody. But yeah, if you believe that, then it's game over. It's game over. Mike, prosecutor started slow, but the rebuttal was excellent. And by the way, thank you, Brooklyn Janet. I thought that was a teddy bear for a second, but that's a real dog. That's a real dog. All right, Robert, Vinnie Politan, Robert Fahrenholt. We need a red tie on tonight at the 8 p.m. edition. We need you at CBS News in 48 hours, daytime or weekend as well. I won't be on CBS or 48 this weekend. And I'm not going to be wearing a red tie tonight. We're not getting the verdict tonight. Jury's gone home. Jury's gone. Maybe tomorrow. Most likely Friday. I'd be ready Friday. Lori Wallace, 100% guilty as charged. Guilty as charged, Your Honor. All right. I'm trying to get closer. Kathy Guidry, conspiracy to commit red rum. What a whacked out marriage. Just one of convenience and shared assets. Hung jury. Hung jury's possible. You know, sometimes jurors will compromise, and the compromise, I think, is whether or not you believe beyond a reasonable doubt. You believe they're responsible, but maybe not beyond a reasonable doubt, and you'll meet somewhere in the middle. But if you believe someone else is responsible, I don't believe a juror who really believed that someone else is responsible would vote guilty on anything. So that's how I think that's the road to a hung jury here. If you've got one or more jurors that believe someone else is responsible. Wendy Dodd agrees. Friday verdict. That's what I believe. Yeah, hurry E. Too bad body language experts can't testify in court. As far as I know, it's not allowed. It's the same as a lie detector. Not allowed either. There's a certain scientific test that, and it's not like a specific test, but there has to be a level of acceptance in the scientific community, and then the legal community has to accept it as well. And it's done through expert testimony, and lie detectors have never gotten there, and body language hasn't either. And there's actually some parts of evidence that we've seen accepted in the past that suddenly will be debunked as junk science and no longer accepted. So it's a moving target as to what's accepted and what's not accepted as expert testimony or expert evidence in a trial. All right. I'm going to try to catch up. Still a half hour behind. A lot of good comments tonight. We got 1,100 live on this pop-up. I call this a pop-up. live stream tonight because I wasn't sure if I was doing anything. And then I finished my work. The jury started deliberating. I said, hey, let me take a look at what's going on here. Let me spread the word on the Farris wheel. So this is one of those trials that there wasn't a lot of talk about it beforehand, but once it started, people started to like really gravitate towards it. Eddie. Melody is so guilty. So guilty. Luann, Vinny dropping Aretha lyrics. Thank you for noticing. All right, Cindy Stovall. Mr. V, will you explain how someone can plead not guilty when they were seen, filmed, doing whatever they were arrested for? Okay. If someone is seen or filmed or video recorded doing whatever they were arrested for, that is just evidence. Okay, that is evidence. It's evidence that can be challenged in a courtroom and that can be challenged legally. It's direct evidence, not circumstantial evidence, but let's talk about we're seen. That would be eyewitness testimony. Well, an eyewitness said, oh, yeah, I saw her do it. Well, an eyewitness can be challenged in court. You know, sometimes you'll have two people maybe that saw it, but maybe they didn't see it exactly the same way. In fact, they never really do. Something that we've learned through the years is that eyewitness testimony is sometimes some of the most unreliable testimony, depending upon the circumstances, because three people will see one thing happen and you'll get three different stories about what happened. He was wearing a green jacket. No, it was a blue jacket. He wasn't wearing a jacket. You know, I mean, that's what happens. So that's why if someone just witnesses something, people don't plead guilty. Now, in your initial appearance, it's always a not guilty plea. It's always a not guilty plea, especially if it's a felony, because usually it's got to go in front of the proper judge, et cetera. But at your initial arraignment, you're being apprised of the charges against you, your rights. You may or may not have an attorney there. And a lot of times the judge, his or herself, will enter the plea for the defendant if they don't have a lawyer and they don't know what's going on. I'll enter a not guilty plea for you. So it's more of a logistical thing because it's not the step of the process. Now, once you get past that, and now it's time, do we go to trial? Do we not go to trial? Why wouldn't someone plead guilty if there's a video of them doing it? Well, can that video be challenged? Can it be authenticated? Was it legally recorded? There could be a legal challenge to it not being admissible evidence, or you may question what's in the video. I'll give you an example. When I was a prosecutor, not my case, it was another prosecutor's case, there was a video, and this is years ago, so the video is a little more grainy than some of the nice 4K stuff we have today. But it purportedly showed the defendant stealing something from his place of work. He worked for the county, whatever. And there was a video of him in the storage room stealing the stuff. I think it was prescription drugs. And he got indicted. Well, he pleaded not guilty. He came to the prosecutor's office to view the video because this is before the digital age where it was so easy to send videos out. He watches the video. I'm here. They're in a conference room right next to me. And he starts screaming at the top of his lungs that, "That's not me. That's not bleeping me." And then he just screams and he stormed out of the prosecutor's office. So that's a case where prosecutors believed that they had video of the defendant doing what he was arrested for. And that defendant was not going to plead guilty because he was challenging the video and the interpretation of the video. So those are some of the reasons. There's the logistic reason at the arraignment, but once you get to past the arraignment into the trial, why someone won't plead guilty is maybe they have nothing to lose because they haven't been given a plea offer. Maybe if they're charged with a crime, that if they plead guilty, they're going to be in prison the rest of their lives. They've, again, got nothing to lose. So those are some of the reasons. I hope that clears that up for you. All right. I'm still 20 minutes behind. Elaine McKenzie, I'm needing my own song too for the sass and snark I bring here. All right, Elaine, we'll keep an eye on you. We'll keep an eye on you. But you'll have to find someone who can sing with an English accent for that one. Thank you, Elaine. Lynn Strouser, Melody totally did it. Scott wasn't even there. Yeah. If you believe that that is the time of the red rum, he was an hour away at the lake. All right. I'm going fast now because I actually have to get out of here because I've got to do my show. So I'm scrolling fast. Stram 69. Thank you. Thank you, Stram. Sherry Nevins. Vinny, I have a long-time crush on you. All right, Sherry, baby. Sherry. By the way, there's all these videos of Frankie Valli now. You've probably come up in your feed. I saw him, I think, a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And yeah, he's old. He's 90 years old, but he's getting up on stage. They're playing his music. You know, he remembers the words. He may not have the strongest voice anymore. He might be singing along with the track a little bit. But man, it keeps him going. It keeps him going, Frankie Valli. No, here we go. You two bad actors. Get a tie like mine, Vinny. That is a red tie. Let me tell you about the bow tie. This is something you need to know about the practice of law. At every courthouse in this country, there is the one criminal defense lawyer who wears the bow tie. And he's known as the bow tie. We had one where I worked, and everyone just called him the bow tie. Didn't even call him by his name. It was a marketing tool because criminal defense attorneys, because they're in court so much, and a lot of times they're in court in front of other criminal defendants, they build their reputation and they get people to hire them because of what they do in court, word of mouth. And if you have a distinct look to you, it's your brand in the courtroom. And for many criminal defense attorneys, it's the bow tie. They don't do the red nose and the hat, but they do the bow tie. And there's usually just one, like in each courthouse, who's known as the bow tie. All right. I'm going fast now. I am caught up. I'm caught up. Good. Rhonda Lee, Vinny, what size hat do you wear? Large. It's big. I think is 7 one of the numbers? I think it's like 7.5. I have to check because I have a baseball hat that has the actual size on it. But I think it's 7.5, but I'm not sure. All right. Marissa Cartia, slowly turning my son Vincenzo into a law nerd and calling him Vinny P during verdict watches. That's awesome. If your son's name is Vincenzo, that's awesome. Vincenzo, che così fa? Maron. All right. Did anyone hear Melody tell Rusty he wasn't supposed to burn that much? That's a little problematic. Anyway, folks, it's the end of the show. So at the end of the show, it's your first time. I am type 1 diabetic, and as a type 1 diabetic, I got to keep an eye on my blood sugar. We have a lot of nurses that check in on me from time to time. So at the end of the show, there is no prize yet. At some point, there will be a prize. It's just for pride right now. But it's time for you to guess my blood sugar, what it is right now. So start rolling the numbers up, and we'll see who's going to win today's episode of What's His Blood Sugar?
He's a type 1. He's type 1. His pancreas is on first. He has diabetes, type 1 juvenile diabetes.
Dana K45 out of the box.
Is more or less. What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? Under 70,
Wow.
he gets lightheaded. Under 60, all the alarms start ringing. Over 180, he starts to get lethargic.
I love this song.
But when it's 90, Vinny, eyes are singing. And so it's time to guess, is more or less. What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar? But take a guess.
Dana K.
Yes, take a guess.
45.
Let's guess.
Go quickly.
Vinny's blood sugar.
Boom.
Now.
Awesome. Oh, Mystic Angel asking, I'm having a 0. That would definitely 0, so it doesn't impact the blood sugar. That's why. And of course, my big thing is smart water, so I can keep up with the folks in the chat. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Don't forget, Verdict Watch will continue first thing tomorrow morning. A verdict can happen at any moment. You really don't know. Anyone on TV that tells you they know when the verdict's coming in is lying to you. The best that I do is tell you when an average verdict, you would expect an average jury to come back with the verdict. I do that so you can tell if it's long or short. I don't do that to tell you when the verdict will actually happen. So it can happen at any moment. Make sure you're tuning into Court TV tomorrow morning. But more importantly, tonight at 8 o'clock, closing arguments till 9, talking about Melody Farris and the Farris wheel. 9 o'clock, we turn to Delphi, the Delphi case out of Indiana. No cameras, no electronics inside the courtroom, but you can't keep Court TV out. Thanks so much to our mod squad. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm Vinny Politan. I will see you next time. I think probably tomorrow afternoon. I think we're going to do a simulcast with Court TV tomorrow. So I should be back tomorrow afternoon, and then Friday at 12:30 here on YouTube. So have a great day, and please don't forget to hug the kids.
Get ready, get set, let's go. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready. So post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set. To like and to subscribe, let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.